I'd like to call our special meeting to order. Laura Lee, will you call the roll, please?
Stu Boyd.
Here.
Denise Chapman.
Here.
Amy Doran.
Here.
Don Kirk.
Here.
Barbara Cruz.
Here.
Alexander Lessem. Nancy Rumpelt.
Here.
Thank you, Laura Lee. And Nancy, if you'll lead us in the pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Nancy. Our first item on the agenda would be the approval of the agenda for tonight, for August 6th. This is for a special meeting. Are there any additions to the agenda plan? Hearing none, I will take a motion to approve the agenda as printed.
So move.
Okay, so first from Stu, a second from Denise. And Laura Lee, please call the roll.
Stu Boyd.
Aye.
Denise Chapman.
Aye.
Amy Doran.
Aye.
Don Kirk.
Aye.
Barbara Cruz.
Aye.
Alexander Lessem. Nancy Rumpelt.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0. All right, our first item of business, second item of business actually, is going on to discussion action items, and it's considering the resolution calling for an election on November 5th, 2025 for the bond initiative. And I'm going to call Todd up first.
Yes, good evening, Madam President, Board of Education, and Dr. Heller. Todd Piccone, Assistant Superintendent of Operations. So tonight I'm excited to present really information that we've been reviewing since November, really December of 24, since the bond election in 24 was not successful. So in saying that, just a general overview of the timeline. So really what we've done since June to now, timeline from last November to now. Bond capacity. So I have some friends with us tonight that we'll introduce as we get there. That's going to look at the assessed valuation and then also the ballot language that is proposed for tonight. And then also a conversation about just bond items, just what is in the bond and how are we going to publicize those. So first is the timeline. As we discussed in June, the charge of staff this summer was really to create the bond language that you have for consideration tonight. So in that is the resolution, the ballot language, proposed ballot language, and then obviously the components within the ballot language. So that's been a lot of the work over summer, is getting that complete. The other piece is just fine-tuning what is in the bond. In the world today with inflations and everything that changes, we've spent time kind of fine-tuning what those numbers are and putting them into defined buckets so then we could push those forward to the community. The other thing Mike and his team has done, Mike Hausman and his team done, is communication. We learned real quick from the last election that communication was something we needed to work on. So his team's been working on communication up to this point, and then after tonight, assuming we're going to pass a resolution, then communication moving forward, and then transition really to a campaign. So those are the pieces that it sounds like little, but that's a lot of the pieces that have been going on these last several months. Additionally to that, I know Dr. Heller's calendar is filling up with community events, which this will be a piece of that. So, tonight, if this is approved, staff goes into the Fair Campaign Practice Act, so there's things we can and cannot do. But regardless, we can share information, factual information about this initiative. So from there, I will turn it over to Maddie, and she's going to talk, she's the Hilltop, a little bit about, we've talked about assessed valuation, how we got to the 99 million, but you've heard from me. I think it's good to hear from our professionals we work with that really get to the details of where we're at tonight. So I will turn it over to Maddie.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. Maddie Pradanovic with Hilltop Securities. We are the district's financial advisor, municipal advisor. I've actually had the pleasure of working with you all since 2015, so we're going on almost a decade here once we get to the end of the year, which is kind of crazy to say. So As Todd mentioned, starting in December of last year, we started working with the district on trying to figure out what a capacity would be for a no tax rate increase election. To do that in a reassessment year, which 2025 is a little complicated, a bit more complicated than if we were talking about doing that last year. The reason for that is obviously assessors are going out and recalculating the underlying property values for everyone, but it's also even more complicated this year because, as you are all likely aware, the state has adjusted how they're just calculating assessed values in general, depending on what property type you are and which entity is levying the mill. And so that's changing assessment rates, as well as sort of calculations for actual values that the assessment rate is then applied to, which makes our job even more challenging than it otherwise would be. And so because of that, in May, we started reaching out to the assessors for the 3 counties that you all operate within, so Larimer, Weld, and Boulder, to try and get some preliminary estimates. As you might imagine, the assessors are a little squirmy about giving out estimates that early. They are required to provide a preliminary estimate under statute by the end of August, but that obviously isn't certified until December. So we did actually hear back from all 3 counties. Weld is an anticipated slight decrease of approximately 8% of that assessed value, and that is mostly related to oil and gas. So those valuations obviously fluctuate, and actually most of what your assessed value is within Weld County is oil and gas, so that does tend to move around a bit. Boulder is actually a slight increase, probably around 4%, 4 to 5% for that individual component. And then Larimer, which is obviously the most important one, really, just given where you all are located, is the preliminary estimates that we had was up potentially as high as 20%. That said, their assessor was very clear that that was going to be revised down. What we didn't know was exactly how much down. And so what we did is put together a table of options of sort of what the borrowing capacity would be under various aggregate AV growth assumptions, ranging from no growth essentially up to a growth level of 10%. Where we landed was the 7.5% assumed growth. That gets you to about $99 million, which is what's in the ballot question. Based on the preliminary estimates that we have from Weld and Boulder, which I think are a bit more firm than what we got from Larimer County, that would require Larimer's AV to go up by 8.2%. And so, that is obviously less than half of the estimated increase that they gave us. And so, I think we feel relatively comfortable moving forward with that. The ballot language also just very clearly states that it's not an expected increase in the mill levy based on the assessed value at the time, essentially, that it's issued. And so this is all still, we feel pretty comfortable with the $99 million. That said, it is a very firm commitment that the mill levy is not going to change for collections in 2026. And so if AV does not pan out as we would expect, that would just mean that we don't issue all of the PAR up front, all of that $99 million up front, and would wait for assessed value to continue to grow to be able to issue all of it. That's all I have for prepared remarks, but happy. You want to keep going? And then I can take questions later.
And next, I'll invite Kim Crawford up, and she'll actually talk about the process for the resolution that's attached for vote tonight, and then the actual ballot language that you've seen. So, Kim?
Good evening. Thank you for having us tonight. I started working with you last year, so last year was my first election with your district. But we work with many school districts, and I've been doing bond work for 25 years. So happy to be here tonight and happy to be working with the district. So as Todd mentioned, this process started a long time ago for you. It started actually even before November of last year, when your ballot questions did not succeed. Because you started working on it before then to get to that ballot question. And then I think after that, trying to fine tune and figure out what you wanted to do with this year and how you wanted to change things and how you wanted to proceed with this election. So I started working with the district probably in May or June, talking about ballot question and what you want to have in it, what your priorities are as far as the bullet points, because the bullet points are really, we think, what kind of draw the eye to the voter. They see the first part, which is the Tabor part, and then they see the last part, which is the state law part, and they're both kind of lumpy sections with things that we need to have to give our opinion that the bonds are valid. And then the middle part with the bullets is what you are telling the voters you're doing. So what you're starting out with is without any expected increase, and we do say expected because this is a general obligation bond, and school districts can only issue general obligation bonds. So you can't do limited tax bonds, and if you said without any increase in our current debt service mill levy, say it's 19 mills, then you would be limited to that 19 mills. So we're saying it's an expected one, and then in the last bigger paragraph, we say, notwithstanding the above, you can increase your mill levy rate in an amount sufficient to pay your bonds back. But those numbers are also specified by Tabor, so you do have a maximum par amount, a maximum annual repayment cost, and a maximum total repayment cost, and you can never go above those numbers. So your mill levy can fluctuate, and the idea and the intent certainly is that it's not going to fluctuate above what your current debt service mill levy is. However, if things go really bad and really crazy and your assessed value goes way down, you're going to need to increase your mill levy rate so that you can pay your bonds back. However, that's never going to exceed, I think it's 19 million annually. 19 million annually. So no matter what, you're not going to pay more than 19 million annually. So that's going to be a set dollar amount each year. And then a set total, which is the 195 million based on 99 million par. And then after this, we can, if this is approved tonight and we move forward, then the board, we can start getting ready to certify this to the county clerks, and then Laura Lee and I will work with the counties to get everything taken care of so that you can be on the ballot in November. Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Okay, on the next slide is the ask. So it's the 99 million and what does it include? You can see what's a little different now than June is the 3 buckets that are on the ballot language now match the 3 buckets you see here. So the contents of it is pretty similar, still 99 million, 35 million are critical needs, so that's our maintenance needs, 10 million is safety and security, and then future planning is both growth of about 44 million-ish, and then there's 10 million of educational enhancements in there too. So program enhancements, the pieces that you saw before broke out, but it was recommended to put them, because it's in the ballot language, to match this is to 1 bucket. One thing I'll mention at the bottom here is I think it might be live now, but the website right after a vote, the website will go live and it'll have the details. So this is, this is 3 general buckets. Similar to the 18 bond, we went through, I want to say it was 2,400 line items with the Citizen Bond Oversight Committee that each specific item in the bond was verified complete. That it aligned with the ballot language. So here shortly, that'll be active, and then we'll be able to see, the schools will be able to see, okay, here's what it looks like for the school. So school A will say HVAC repair. Earth and Ivy, it'll be growth, and here's what that looks like. So it gets into more of the details, so then the voters in each school specific can see what's allocated. The challenge there too is this is significantly less than what we looked at before, so there's just not that much spread out as there was before. We're still touching all the schools, just not as the magnitude as we did before. So the other piece I'll note in the ballot language is right below the 3rd bullet point is the note of Citizen Bond Oversight Committee. So just a note to the board and community, that is a board-appointed committee that oversees the financial spending, the process, bond items, and bond language are all adhered to, and then they report back to the board. So that's just good for the board because that's really your in-depth view into the bond workings in that process. The next piece I want to touch on is just the communication piece. So you'll see an example of what the website's going to look like, but also I think Mike is working and at the printer now for flyers. So there's different pieces of the literature we're working on, and that's the piece we really reflected on last time. What we heard, how do we need to grow to hopefully get this successful if it's passes tonight, is communication. And so here's just some examples of the work that the communication team has done to really show the community, here's the needs, here's the why. And then you'll see on the website too, we did work on the history. So it's not just about today's bond, but 2018, what did we do? In 2005, what did we do? And building up to a bigger story for the next 5 years of the continual need of these pieces in the bond. So from there, I know there's a lot of information, obviously some questions, but that's all we have tonight. So any questions?
So I'm sure you're already aware of the questions that I'll ask. So again, I understand what you're saying, but what I look at, when I look at subsection 3C, it's very clear, ballot. The ballot title, and our question is, we don't have a title, should begin, shall taxes be increased, or shall debt be increased. We are increasing debt. It doesn't matter that the 2005 is paid off. It's like we're going out and getting new loans. So we are increasing debt by 99 million. So we should, to comply with Tabor, start the ballot with shall debt be, Thompson, blah, 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 increase debt by 99 million. And then you can go into your blurb about with no tax increase, which in my opinion, again, is disingenuous. Because again, it's like when you pay off a debt, yes, you now have that extra cash because you don't have to pay it towards your debt anymore. But if you go out and get new debt, that money is now consumed again. So we're asking the taxpayers to forego getting that money back because we're going to go get new debt. So to me, it should be very clear, A, we are getting new debt, and B, this is what we're asking them to get, because we've never explained or shown the numbers of how much money each person in average, like we've done before, pays in their property taxes for the 2005 bond payment. What does that look like? And if I understood, were you saying, I'm sorry, I forgot you. Kim, were you saying that from the levy that we'll collect $19 million a year to pay the debt? That's the maximum. What on average have we been collecting? You may not know that off the top of your head, Bob.
District's debt service currently is about $19 million a year. It will drop down to approximately $15.6 million next year after the bonds roll off, and then what's left there is the 2019 bond issuance from the 2018 authorization, which is approximately $15.6 million and runs through calendar year 2038. And then because of the no tax increase structure, we're essentially creating like an interest-only structure up front to minimize the tax impact, right, to be able to keep that mill levy the same. And then the debt service or the principal amortization for this is really occurring between 2039 and 2045 on these bonds. That anticipated debt service sitting here today is about $17.2 million, but we are creating some capacity in the that maximum annual and the total repayment number.
So for those who are, I think you're the one looking over the ballot language, wouldn't it be clearer to the voter if instead of doing the without increasing taxes, we simply said the mill levy rate currently is 3.73 mils, and it will be more or less maintained at that unless, in order to meet our obligation, it has to go up. Why not make it clear what the mill levy is now and what it would be going forward, like you do in a normal one?
These are, good questions. So, and we certainly could say that. We could say what the mill is. I think the hesitancy is that people are going to, again, moving forward, they're focusing on the 3 point whatever mills, and it may or may not be that, based on what happens to the assessment rates and the assessed values. So it can go up and down, and it'll have to go up and down. But we could add that. That could be in the ballot question.
But that's no different than what we did in the 2018 bond language. We put in the mill levy with the same caveat.
And I didn't work on that one, so I don't have that question with me.
Would you like to see it?
No, it's fine. I believe you.
Okay. So I think as far as questions go, I still think for Todd, one of the big issues last time was the voter trust deficit, and people have made clear that they want more specificity in what their money's being spent on. There's too many times that we've seen it just changes constantly. And with what happened last time with the audit, there were a lot of issues with not being able to correctly and accurately tell us what was bond money and how much was spent on each project. I mean, the auditor was pretty clear in her April study session report, and I printed out the Plant Moran report.
Yeah, I would say the 149 that was promised to the voters, all that was 100% complete and done. The audit was the above and beyond, but the ballot language that was promised to voters was completed and checked by the Citizen Bond Oversight Committee.
I don't think you're understanding me. The voters want to know what the money's going to be spent on, and I understand you have to put in some escalators, but why not just say 44 million is for Berthoud Elementary and Ivy Elementary and Berthoud?
Oh, we
Why
will.
not?
Yeah, we
In
will.
the in the ballot, because
Oh.
then you're held to it.
It's a good question. I don't have that answer. What I know is that we are going to be transparent and show that.
Okay.
I'm going to move us on. Any other questions? Alexandra?
So the only question I have is, so we're doing the 99 billion, sorry. Yeah, well, we can only wish, right? The 99 billion is based on a, like that 7.5% assessed valuation rate. If the assessed valuation rate turns out to be higher, we don't get to go up, right? We're still stuck at that 99 million. Okay, and so theoretically, if the assessed valuation is higher, people's taxes could actually go down with still incorporating this, right? I mean, theoretically, that's all a big, but I was just checking that we're not gonna we're not gonna escalate if the valuation is higher, we're staying where we are. Okay.
Yes, we're staying at the 99 million, regardless.
Okay.
Any other questions? Stu?
It's not a question. It's a comment based on something that Nancy said. I looked at the ballot language for the 2024 ballot, and I didn't have the ballot language for 2018, but it's amazing what you can find on the internet. And what I found was that the ballot language that we're going to be talking about tonight is quite consistent with the 2018 ballot language, with the exception of reference to a new school built east of I-25, which turned out to be Riverview. The rest of the bond language was rather general in terms of the types of expenditures that would be made relative to facilities and maintenance and so on. So I did want to point out that what I see when I read this particular ballot is very consistent both with 2024 and with 2018.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. I would take a motion to
Madam
approve.
President, could you make sure it says November 5th in the motion? Will you make sure it says November 4th?
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. I would take a motion to approve the resolution calling for the election on November 4th, 2025.
So move.
Second.
First from Stu, a second from Don. Further questions?
Don't we usually go down and do the discussion?
We did the discussion.
Robert's rules says after you call for a first and a second, before you vote, you do the,
Is there a discussion? Is there any further discussion?
I would like to add.
Okay.
So again, I still firmly believe that this ballot language does not comply with Tabor because it does not start with the question, shall the district? That's my firm belief. I understand we need the bottom, I understand we need the bond, but that doesn't mean we get to circumvent what Tabor says. I also think we should have taken more time to figure out how to get more specifics, because the voters have been very clear that's what they want. They want more accountability and transparency. And the final thing is, last year, we did a study session, so all of this could be like hashed out. Then we had the vote at a regular meeting. This time, I thought we were going to have a study session discussion, and instead, it's a special session with no public comment, and then we're done. I just think we did not follow our normal protocols for this, and I don't think that's okay.
Are we ready to vote? Okay, Laura Lee, please call the roll.
Stu Boyd,
Aye.
Denise Chapman,
Aye.
Amy Doran,
Aye.
Don Kirk,
Aye.
Barbara Cruz,
Aye.
Alexandra Lessem,
Aye.
Nancy Rumpfelt.
No.
Okay, the motion passes 6-1. All right, we will adjourn this meeting, and then we will be meeting back over at the tables, giving Brian a chance to, is it Brian?
Yes, like
Yeah.
about 10 minutes.
About 10
He's
minutes?
requested about 10 minutes.
Okay, we're going to give him 10 minutes to get everything switched around. Last time we did this, I forgot.